What is up, you guys? Taylor checking in for the recap of UFC Austin. Obviously, we got a lot more to talk about than just the recap of UFC Austin. There was a lot going on this past weekend, specifically in regards to Bobby Green and Arman Tsarukyan, and Bobby Green, going at it with the teller a little bit back and forth. But Bobby G is a good dude, and I'm gonna kind of go over what was going on this past weekend. We will let you guys know what bets we targeted. It was not another profitable night. And don't think just because I'm a little late with this recap video, just don't think I'm trying to hide my bets. Always, I'm completely transparent with you guys. If you follow me on IG, the night of every event, you guys can see my results right in my IG story. All right. So I'm always transparent. Remember that. I just was a little caught up early in this week. So I'm sorry this video is getting out late to you. But you guys know how we do it. We'll start off at the bottom, work our way up to the top. And as we get to the Bobby Green fight and the main event, I'll talk a little bit about my thoughts and what was going on with that whole situation. You're not going to want to miss that. All right. So Veronica Hardy, we did have Veronica Hardy to win this fight. I don't understand why it was a split decision over Jamie Lynn Horth, and threw a little bit of money on her. Like I said, always got money on every fight. Very upset with myself for not throwing one unit at this as an official play. Veronica Hardy was a plus 170 right before the fight. All right, so I threw $200 in her, put a little bit of money in my pocket there, but it wasn't an official play. I'm a little mad at myself for that. All right. I was questioning myself a little bit with the size disadvantage. I thought maybe Horth would have grinded her and whatnot, but Hardy was the superior fighter on tape, and it played out just like that. And again, I don't know what was up with that split. Judges, again, just not knowing what they're doing. Jared Gooden gets the comeback victory over Wellington Turman. A big victory for Gooden. I believe that's now his second victory in the UFC. But he is a fighter that doesn't have many wins in the UFC, and he's a guy that takes fights on short notice and whatnot. And he's now 2-4 in the UFC, and he's dude. I like his vibes, man. He's game. He shows up on short notice. No handshakes at the weigh-in. I'm actually happy he got that W. I think it was deserved for a fighter like that. And Wellington Turman got caught slipping there and got cracked with the shot, and eventually was finished up there with the sub. And then we had a string of crazy fights here. How about Rodolfo Bellato getting that ground and pound finish over Ihor Peteria after almost being finished there in the beginning of that second round? In my opinion, that second round was one of the most entertaining rounds, one of the best rounds I've ever seen since I've been watching MMA. Bellato instantly becomes a star in the MMA world, in my opinion. Maybe not a star, maybe that's an exaggeration, but becomes a respectable name and a name that the fans will look to put on I would say entertaining performances. That's what I'll say. This is a guy that we could trust. Take my word for it. If you don't believe that, take my word for it. This is a guy that you can trust to go out there and march forward and look to put on a show. He'll take a shot to give a shot. And he's going to be part of a lot of exciting fights moving forward. Drakkar Klose KO slams Joe Selecki. That was another fight. I did pick Drakkar Klose. The line was very close in that fight. A little upset with myself also. I didn't make that an official play. I kind of like that stylistic matchup there. You guys know I got nothing but love for Joe Selecki. We've interviewed him here on the show, but stylistically, I like the way that this fight was looking for Klose. Cody Brundage, I did not see this. Cody Brundage slams Zach Reese on his head. Zach Reese was a huge favorite. And, the line, when you take a look at that fight, the line, being so high in Zach Reese probably wasn't deserving, or definitely wasn't in retrospect that we saw him get slammed on his head, but for the fact that he just wasn't that proven. All right. He was 5-1, I believe, going into that fight, just 6 pro fights. And, he was 6-0, 6-0 at the time. And now he is 6-1. Took his first career losses. Cody Brundage is a complete flake. You never know what you're going to get with him. All of a sudden, he shows up in certain fights. He'll knock out Tresean Gore. He'll slam Zach Reese on his head, and then he'll look absolutely horrific in every other fight that he steps in the octagon. So I don't know what his deal is. Miesha Tate, you talk about this card just continuously being crazy and just unexpected things going on. Miesha Tate looks to be in vintage form. Now, I know Julia Avila was coming off a long layoff, and she has struggled with her takedown defense, but I still thought that was extremely impressive the way Miesha Tate just ran across the cage and was just going nonstop, and got the rear naked choke there in the third round. I'm excited for Miesha Tate to continue the tail end of her career and see how far she could push it there with a couple more fights. I think that she eventually, and probably in her next fight, she gets matched up with a little bit of a higher caliber opponent. I think that she gets bloodied up and maybe TKO'd or just kind of styled on, if I'm being honest, but she looked good in that fight. Dustin Stoltzfus We talked about the potential of him pulling off the upset here. We talked about the fact that Ponelehi Sariano is a fighter that is untrustworthy. He has no gas tank. I did think that he probably would have knocked Stoltzfus out going into this fight, but if he didn't get that knockout, we talked about the fact that was very likely that Stoltzfus could have got a decision, and he actually ends up even finishing him there at the rear naked choke. But still, if that fight would have went to the scorecards, it was clear Stoltzfus was in complete control of that fight. And that was a very much needed victory for Stoltzfus, as if he would have dropped that fight, he would have lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of his last 6 fights. Instead, now he's actually won 2 of his last 3 fights in the very shallow middleweight division. And I still think there's some major holes in his striking defense, even though Sariano couldn't find the mark. You see how he's very stiff and he's upright. He's a tough dude, very, very physically fit. He has a good frame for the division, but I think that he will get knocked out in the future, if you ask me. But the division's shallow, and he should be able to maybe get another W here, or there in the next couple of years. So we'll see what's next for him. Joaquim Silva defeats Clay Guida. Clay Guida had the bounce back second round, I believe it was. I was hoping he could have eked that fight out there, and kind of fell short in the third round, right? Lost 2 of 3 rounds. And Guida looked good, though, in my opinion. He could take a shot still. You know, his chin has not left him. Good cardio, and even though he's way up there in age, and he now has, Clay Guida now has 62 professional fights. Crazy, and I don't think he's going anywhere, nor should that be the case. Now, these next 2 fights, we're talking official action, and it was tough to watch for me. So, yes, I did target Kelvin Gastelum to defeat Sean Brady. Caught it at underdog odds at plus 110, threw 5 units at it. I thought that I was getting a little bit of a steal here on the line, if I'm being honest. Kelvin Gastelum going down to the welterweight division. I've always felt that with his frame that he is more of a natural welterweight fighter. I don't think that's the case at this point in time. Something with that weight cut, it seems to be taking something out of him. I guess he just is a middleweight fighter. He has a strange frame for that division, but he seems to perform better at the middleweight division, I think we could say. And I thought Kelvin would have been able to implement some of the tactics that we saw Bilal Muhammad do to Sean Brady. All right. But of course, you know, the MMA world's crazy. Sean Brady bounces back and looks as good as ever. He was all over Gastelum with the grappling, and got that Kimura and just dominated that fight. And Gastelum, he's a little bit of a head case, I guess. I don't know, man. Something was a little off with him, and it probably had something to do with the weight cut, like I said. I don't know. That was a tough L. We take it on the chin, and then we take another tough L in the next fight. As I targeted Rob Font, you know, I thought that with Figueiredo coming up in weight, you know, I didn't think that he would necessarily look bad or anything. I thought that he would look good. You know, he's a great athlete. He's a great fighter. But I thought that the size of Font and just the difference of level of skill in the bantamweight division compared to the flyweight division, at least some of the top flyweight guys right now, like Moreno, I thought that we would have saw a difference, and I stand corrected there. Figueiredo looked good, great footwork, and just, you know, wasn't the best performance for him, but he was in complete control, used beautiful footwork. And Rob Font, what was up with Rob Font, man? I'm a big fan of his, and you know, if you remember when he was breaking the statistical record in the bantamweight division for strikes landed against Marlon. Excuse me, guys. Against Marlon Chito Vera, even though Chito Vera always ended each round with that big shot and would hurt him and snag the rounds, Rob Font is a fighter that always has a crazy pace in his fights and lands a lot of shots. Rob Font's boxing, it was strange, man. He was whiffing left and right, and the way he was throwing his hands, it just didn't look as good as it normally looks. I thought something was a little off with him. Now, listen, I'm not saying he has the sharpest boxing, but he's just usually a lot more offensive and can usually touch his opponents up a little bit more. And I don't understand how he just couldn't find Figueiredo at all. I mean, Figueiredo looked good with his footwork, but it was weird. It was kind of, I'm questioning Font's performance. I am. And that was a 4-unit play, which I got it at minus 145. Another tough L there. Jalen Turner knocks out Bobby Green. All right, so listen, we'll talk about these top 2 fights here. And you guys know what happened. First off, the stoppage in the Turner-Green fight was horrendous. I think that it possibly was personal. There's no way you could explain that situation to me. What Kerry Hatley, I believe it was. How is he not stopping that fight? He was like 9 strikes too late. And, you know, towards the end of it, it was clear he was out. And he was just sitting there looking at him. Bro, he had a front row seat. He could see what was going on better than anybody. He's just watching it. I don't know, man. And another interesting fact, Hatley had not that this would make any sense, but I'm just giving you guys some information. Not that this would even play into effect, but in Kerry Hatley's story, it was very weird. He had a shared post in his story, or a post of Jalen Turner, like a highlight reel of Jalen Turner before that fight took place. It's kind of strange, right, for a referee to be sharing highlights of these fighters that he's about to be reffing for. I don't know. Again, that you would think that would just make him more inclined to stop the fight earlier. That's why I think maybe he doesn't really like Bobby Green. Maybe there was something that happened in the back. Maybe he doesn't like some of the antics. And you guys saw what went on with the fighting in the hotel and all that, the day before the fight, which, so initially you guys saw what happened, right? Arman Tsarukyan and Bobby Green get in an altercation. I made a post about this. And I stand behind what I said, which Bobby Green instantly started DMing me like crazy because I tagged him in it, and he was kind of going after me a little bit, but in a respectful way. I will say that. But I don't care. I'm gonna call it for what it is. Listen, when a guy starts getting up in your face and kind of closes in on you like that, for everyone listening, and for those of you guys that say like, oh, it's easier said than done, and you don't know what it's like until you're there. You don't know what you would do until you're there. You guys are the ones that get in these situations. You guys are the ones, I won't go too deep down that rabbit hole, but you guys are the types of people that are in those situations. Okay, no, there's no excuse. And remember this when you're in those situations. When you feel threatened and you're cornered and someone's boxing you in and they're in striking range and you're in a hostile situation, get the fuck out of that situation. Circle out, posture up, like just give yourself range where someone's not landing a strike on you, because you never know. People could be sick, man. Instead of Arman shoving him in the neck, he could have just clipped him with the shot and it just could have hurt him, stopped the whole fight from happening the next day, could have ruined all his plans there. Nah, when someone's on up in your personal space like that, I don't care if people are blocking you in, his management, security, push those people out the way and you get your space, and then you start jawing off. And I didn't like the way Bobby Green handled that situation. I don't like the way he threw a lackadaisical little push and just like turned his body like this to get hit, basically entrusting your foe that he's not going to hurt you. I never like trusting enemies and people that are hostile towards you. You should be paranoid. Be paranoid. Be skeptical about anyone in those types of situations. Even people that are not even a threat to you, you should still, when I'm at the grocery store, if someone's too close behind me, I look over my shoulder. I mean, I'm not telling you guys to be completely paranoid, but in that situation, it's ridiculous. So Bobby Green didn't like what I had to say, and then he's sending me videos, and you guys saw, the rest. If you guys haven't seen the rest, the rest was history. But my Twitter, somehow we had over 1.5 million views on a video, and I got nothing but love for Bobby Green. I think I'm a fan of his. Now I think that he's not the sharpest knife in the drawer, if I'm being honest with you guys. Hopefully, I know some of you guys might get upset. I'm a Bobby Green fan. I like Bobby Green. I want to see him bounce back in a major way. He's not the sharpest knife in the drawer, and you guys that are real understand that, and some of you guys that are a little bit more dopey probably don't really fully comprehend that, but you guys are sharp. You're tuned into the teller here. Arman Tsarukyan dominates Beneil Dariush. You guys know I had him finishing this fight. Beneil Dariush has been finishing every one of his losses in the UFC. Obviously, even coming into this fight, gets finished once again. Was coming off a quick finish loss against Charles Oliveira in the first round. Arman Tsarukyan's power is underrated. He's still so young. He's sharpening other aspects of his game, like his striking and all that. I saw that coming there, and a little upset I didn't target that prop finish there. The line was a little bit too high for me as it crept up to 305 in the money line. Wish I would have also jumped in on that money line early. You guys know how it goes, though, man. You learn from your mistakes. You can kick yourself after the car, but then from there, it's on to the next event. All right, guys? So remember now, all right, I wasn't shying away. I'm always going to get these recap videos up to you. I'm sorry that this is a little bit later on, Tuesday, but I want to get these out Sunday and Monday. But for those of you guys that like to stay in touch for what plays I targeted and just hear my recaps, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Hit that like button if you guys can. Subscribe to the channel and catch me on all my social media. It's booming right now. On Instagram, MMA Fortune Teller _, on Twitter at the MMA Teller, and we already have that UFC Vegas 83 prediction video up. Check it out. We got a lot of spots to cash in on. All right, guys, signing out. Teller.
Welcome to the show. This is the MMA Fortune Teller. Yeah.
The MMA Fortune Teller.
The teller.